So this is Christmas, and what have you done, Marvel? Hello, interwebs, and welcome to my review of the season finale, or possibly series finale of Hawkeye, this time Season 1, Episode 6. So this is Christmas. Oh boy, I have some thoughts about this one, quite a few. So I'm gonna stay spoiler-free up front here because my biggest problem with this episode is a spoiler, and it's a big one. But what I will say before we talk about that is that staying spoiler-free, up until the thing that I'm going to be talking about, I was actually ready to praise this episode to positive effect. I was going to say high heavens, but I don't think this episode deserves high heavens. Like, ignoring the thing that I'm going to be upset about, I thought that this episode was just a lot of popcorn fun. It does everything that you want an episode, a finale like this to do. It, like, hits all the boxes, every single thing that they've been setting up all the season, from the LARPers to just the tracksuit mafia to all the different relationships and character beats and everything that they sort of been building upon. All gets paid off to good effect here. None of it, like, is stellar, over the top, or amazing in my opinion, I think, but it's all solidly done and good, and the action is fun. It just felt like a light popcorn fare the entire way through, and there are some good, strong, emotional beats that do hit really, really well. Again, not knocking out of the park the most amazing thing that I've ever seen on a show like this, or in the MCU even, especially considering I just saw Spider-Man No Way Home a few days ago, but which did hit those huge marks for me. But this was all really, really solid fun. I think especially, like, Clint has some wonderful moments with Yelena in this episode that I think really pay off. Natasha's death from Avengers Endgame and finally gives that scene and her sacrifice weight, because in the Endgame she kind of got forgotten, and so I like that this postscript to her death did give a suitable, to my mind, sort of at least acknowledgement of the weight of her death here, and I thought that that was really nice. The action sequences are all a ton of fun. I think specifically there was one between Kate and Yelena that was great as well. Kate doesn't get as much to do in terms of the big emotional moments in terms of the main plot. She does have a few moments with her mother that are good, serviceable, but again, as her mother wasn't a character that I really loved, they're fine. And everything else just sort of pops and pays off to good effect. Echo, I also think, is another character that is served okay here. Nothing is bad, but everything is fine. And then I have to talk about... I'm going to try and stay spoiler-free here for a minute, but I have to talk about the thing that I've been itching to talk about this entire season, which is Vincent D'Onofrio. So I will say he, as always, is fantastic in the role. I think he does absolutely great, and when given moments to shine within this episode, I think he just has that moment where the Kingpin, like the scariness of him and the conniving thoughtfulness of him just slips through, and it's so great to just see. But that being said, he is utterly wasted in this episode. He feels so ancillary and so just not part of anything relevant, including when he does get a fight sequence. It's okay, but he's fighting Kate, who he does not know and does not care about, to the point where he's just like, you're just starting to annoy me when he talks to her. And so it was just more just like kind of an annoyance, and he just feels like an afterthought when he was the thing that I know was not the focus of this series, and I know he was sort of like the cameo thing to like bait us along. I get that, I understand that, that's what Marvel does, but it feels like if you're going to be setting that up for us to tease it so much like they did in Twitter and other places, and really hint at him throughout this, that I feel there needs to be at least a little bit better payoff than this. And so I honestly was deeply disappointed. And also, I'll talk a little bit less in the spoiler section, but the costuming on him was weird. I'm assuming the costuming was a comic book reference. It better be, because it was just sort of like, why would you dress the Kingpin like this? It was just strange. It had to be a reference, because otherwise I have no context for it. But there is something else I'm going to need to talk about when it comes to Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, but that's a big spoiler. So I'm going to stop right here and say, overall, I think divorcing myself from the Vincent D'Onofrio of it all, I liked this episode. I thought it was a solid popcorn fun thriller, but the stuff with the Kingpin, especially the thing that really bothers me, left a kind of bad taste in my mouth about the episode, which is disappointing because I think that this was a strong series overall. So, you know, if I'm divorcing my own personal desires and hopes and wants that I sort of built up, and I know that that's my own anticipation and my own expectations upon the show, if I take that out of it, I would say this is a solid, good ending to the series. Putting those expectations that I'm sure were mirrored by many of you out there into the show, I would say I was left feeling a little bit, tiny bit bitter at the end of this. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But to talk about that more, let's get into spoilers here. So to kind of go through a little recap, I'll talk about the big thing that I'm pissed off about at the end, because it happens at the end, though I think we all know what it is. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes here. But going through the episode, I think everything else here was really, really great. I think seeing Vincent D'Onofrio at the beginning and him sort of like, again, having those little moments where he meets with Kate Bishop's mother and saying like, can't just get out of this. How are you going to escape? Like, you can't leave this. This isn't just something that you can get out of. And when she says, I'm out, he says, I'm going to give you one chance because of the holiday season. And it's just, he's really good in those moments where it ekes through his like his just power is great in every single one of those moments. But this is where I have to address in all the scenes that he's in, he's wearing like this Hawaiian stuff, and like the background around him and his room is all dressed in like a Christmas Hawaiian party sort of thing, which would have been fine if it had paid off in any way. And again, it's probably a comic book reference. But for the Kingpin, and this is probably people's first introduction to the Kingpin in the MCU, because I'm sure a lot of people saw Daredevil on Netflix, but some probably didn't, and this is their first entry into it. And it's this in that costume. It just defangs him when he was just so terrifying and such a presence within Daredevil. It was just weird to me. And I get that he was going to be softened for the MCU. Don't get me wrong. I was well aware that that was going to be a thing. But it just weirded me out in this episode. It just really weirded me out. Going further, though, when Kate's freaking out about her mother and sort of trying to figure things out, I do like that Hawkeye calling her his partner, which I thought worked well and was a solid emotional beat for the two. But then we have an Echo and Kingpin scene, which I did really like the Echo and Kingpin scene as well. It showed Kingpin's humanity, that he did care for Echo and did care, and like knew sign language, did say he loved her. It just showed moments where like Vincent D'Onofrio's range, that he could show that the Kingpin is a real human, and then him instantly turning on her with Kaz afterwards, saying like, you gotta kill her, because he kind of could tell that she had turned on him. So I liked that scene. I think was probably Vincent D'Onofrio's best scene in the entire episode, where he just gets a moment to be like, let them know that I own this city. And then I loved the scene where Kate and Clint are making trick arrows together. You'd like to see how the sausage get made. And then Kate also having a really wonderful moment where saying like, look, I saw you out there on this attack of New York, and you were an average human doing what the Avengers are doing, and that inspired me. It showed me that I could do these things, that people could do these things. And I like that take on Hawkeye and what he meant to her, and him finally being able to process that and say, I can be an inspiration. Also a really solid moment. Didn't knock it out of the park, but a solid moment here. But then this brings us to basically the big action sequence of the episode, and I'll just hit on all this stuff because I kind of talked about a lot of it. I'll just trying to say things I liked. I like when Kate and Clint go into the formal dress wear, and he's teaching her how to case a room, like what are our assets, what are our threats. Liked that bit, was absolutely wonderful. When Kaz shows up to kill him and try to shoot people, everyone freaking out, and them going their separate ways, with Hawkeye going to face off against Kaz and shoot him down, while Yelena and Kate fight. Yelena and Kate's fight was absolutely the best. I liked that Kate clearly was not the upper hand in this fight. Like, Yelena is a trained assassin, and Kate, while certainly not a bad fighter, has nothing on her, and I like that she really never gets the upper hand in her, but she uses like little tricks and things like that, and Yelena is clearly holding back in order to beat her. Like when she like pushes all the buttons on the elevator, and Yelena just like, oh, that's annoying, and runs, and then Kate just like trying to block the door and hold her back. Like, it was a clever choreographed scene because Kate was clearly not going to win here. And so I like that Kate was using tricks and Yelena was just holding back because she didn't want to hurt Kate in these scenes, and I thought that worked well. Then we also get the bit with the LARPers getting paid off. That was kind of fun. I enjoyed seeing that. And again, I'm not exactly here for the LARPer humor, but I did enjoy it. I was here more for the Tracksuit Mafia jokes. I really like my friend Vera Wild over at the Council of Geeks. She made a good point of calling them like punch card villains. Like they're just at run-of-the-mill villains. Like when one of the men like Yelena grabs, she's like, "Oh, thank you. You really helped me out with that advice earlier. It was wonderful." So all that was great. Jack getting a little bit of payoff too with the sword, and Kate getting to apologize to him was fun, and just seeing him fighting people in the streets was a good moment. I did enjoy that to pay off to his character. But then the true stand-up moment for me was when Kate and Hawkeye end up on the ice, and then they end up fighting a whole bunch of different villains and Tracksuit Mafia people with the different trick arrows. The Pym arrow obviously being the number one. That was just too much fun. And then the owl coming and swooping away, and yeah, Hawkeye's like, well, that's a thing. So that was absolutely wonderful. I was laughing pretty hard at that. But then we kind of split off into 3 different fights here, and I will say I'll go for the ones that I like the best to the worst, because it'll sort of let me gradate down to what I really want to talk about here. The one I liked the best was Hawkeye and Yelena. I thought that this, as I said in the spoiler-free section, was a true payoff to Natasha. I wish we had gotten more from her in like the Black Widow movie in those moments, but this does feel like a good postscript to really hit that. And I liked that Yelena didn't believe him at first, and that Hawkeye had to convince her that she sacrificed herself, and Yelena just finally coming to terms with her sister's death, I think was needed after, her introduction in Black Widow. We needed to see Yelena mourn her death in some way, and so finally getting that here was really good, and it was a nice sort of finish off for Hawkeye's feelings on the matter as well. I'm sure it'll come up in the movies possibly down the line, but at least it echoes that here, no pun intended, and sort of shows that he's, has Kate as a partner now, not replacing Natasha, but just someone that, can start to help him heal that hole. So I thought that was I thought that was actually probably the best emotional core of the episode. From there, we then get Echo and Kaz, which was fine. Echo kills Kaz, and it was fine. I didn't care for Kaz. It wasn't that he was a bad character. I just don't care. And so, cool. Kaz is dead. Echo beats him. It was hard for her. It was fine. But then, this brings us to the Kate and Kingpin fight, which... Okay, introduction, solid. Him ripping off the door, to get Kate's mother, great. Great introduction. Him taking an arrow and just shrugging it off, also great. Wonderful. Getting hit by a car was a little bit like, oh, that seemed disappointing, but I'm glad that he wasn't like out of the fight. So he took some hits, and I like that. That feels truly Kingpin, because I remember him in the Spider-Man anime series, and he was taking some hits in that show, and was just not letting anyone take any crap. And I think also in the Daredevil movie, the really bad one with Ben Affleck, he was also taking some hits as well. So I like seeing him here just getting in some hits and being fine. The problem that I have, though, is that when we do get to the actual fight between Kate and him in the department store in FAO Schwartz, whatever, she like punches him, he shoves her, he punches him, he shoves her, he doesn't really care. There's no emotional investment because he doesn't even know who Kate really is, and he's just trying to get out the door, and eventually she beats him by like a little bit of trickery, which is fine, it's clever enough, but with the trick arrows, but it's just like, what a disappointing fight, because Kingpin's just so ancillary, and it makes me think like he either should not have been in this show at all, and just sort of been something that like is built up for later, like in another show or movie or something that down the line, or alternatively, you have him introduced much earlier so that he does have some connection to our main hero, so that these final fights feel like more of a payoff to anything. Here he just feels more like fan service, and it feels disappointing after everything that we were looking forward to with him. And that's made even worse by the fact that Echo catches up with him, and this is what pissed me off, but presumably, she kills him. Now, possibly, that could be a trick, and I'm hoping to God it is. I hope to God that she didn't actually kill him, because they do cut away, and we know in movies, if you don't see the character actually get shot, you know they're not actually dead. So it is quite possible that she was like, I still have feelings for him, I'm not going to kill him because I still have feelings for him, or he beats her and, whatever, and he gets away. So I think they're leaving that possibility open. I get that. So I totally get that Kingpin may still be alive. That does not change the fact that the impression that they wish to give us from this is that they killed the Kingpin, which pisses me right off. It really just, I'm so upset at this, because Vincent D'Onofrio is such a great character, and he played the character to such a aplomb, and to see him join the MCU was something that I was really, really looking forward to. Even if it was just going to be in the Disney Plus shows from now on, like even if he appeared in an Echo show or something like that. So to give me the impression that he's just dead now, even if that doesn't turn out to be the case, but to just give me that impression that you're just like, he's in, and now he's gone, we're done with him. Even if you do bring him back later on, I'm still left with this for the next few months to whenever he shows up again, maybe, possibly, is just frustrating. Especially since, no spoilers, there's so many things that they brought in specifically into Spider-Man No Way Home. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm kind of referencing there. So to do that and do that so well in that movie, and then here just feels so dismissive of this character, feels anticlimactic and frankly just frustrating. And like I said, hopefully he'll come back, and when that happens, I will judge that on its own terms. But on the terms here, I'm very upset by it, and it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth for something that I was really looking forward to. And I get that I had high expectations that were probably never going to be met, but it feels very similar to, in fact, this is actually a great equation. It feels very similar to over in WandaVision with Quicksilver showing up in that show, where we had this big build up to eventually what was just a kind of a dick joke. With the character. It's like, hey, look, we have multiverse stuff going on. Look, we have the Quicksilver from X-Men. Nah, not really. Just a dick joke. And this feels like an even more egregious version of that. And it really disappointed me. Deeply. For a character that I have much more investment in than Quicksilver from X-Men. I mean, I like Quicksilver from X-Men, but Vincent D'Onofrio was just one of my true standout favorites in all of the MCU, not just the Netflix ones. So, anyways, rant done. I had to say it. Disappointed me. The rest of this episode was good, I will say. I did like Kate getting to confront her mother. Again, didn't knock it out of the park, but it was solid. It kind of explained her motivations and let Kate show that she's willing to sacrifice to be a hero. That's something that came up in numerous episodes before this, and so I like that it gets some payoff here. Didn't knock it out of the park, but I thought it was solid. And then the moments where Hawkeye and Kate go back to Hawkeye's home because she now no longer has a home to spend Christmas with was also very sweet. We do get a weird payoff for the watch that apparently is just a watch, which I kind of... there's an element of me that likes that subversion where it's just like, it's just a MacGuffin. Whatever. It's just a watch. So I do kind of like that. Maybe it'll come back up later. There's something, or maybe there's something I missed. But if it's just a watch, I actually don't hate that. The other weird thing is we don't get payoff to the dog either. The dog is just not mentioned really, which is kind of sad. But I do also like the little bonding moments at the end between Hawkeye and Kate was great. And then also the after credits sequence where we get to see the entirety of the song Rogers also was wonderful. I have no notes on that. Great. From front to back, wonderful. Absolutely tons of fun. I enjoyed that after credit sequence. Best after credit sequence in the MCU. So overall, like I said, this was a lot of fun. It was an enjoyable time. It felt like it paid off everything that I wanted it to pay off on its own terms. And it was a popcorn thriller that didn't knock it out of the park, but was a fun time to have right before Christmas. But for me personally, and again, I know that might be a me thing with my own expectations, but I was very disappointed and left with a bad taste when it came to Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. And I can't really take that away, no matter how much I do enjoy the rest of the episode. So it's kind of like a good episode with a very bad aftertaste. And so that's kind of what I'm left with. I feel kind of sad. I usually don't like to end my reviews of series on a bad note, but that's gotta be honest with you. So I'll wrap out of here. What did you think? Were you less upset about Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin? I'd love to hear all that down in the comments below. But beyond that, thank you so much for watching. I don't know if I will have a Wheel of Time video up before Christmas, so I won't say Merry Christmas just yet to those who celebrate. But if you don't watch my Wheel of Time video, Merry Christmas then anyways. I'll say it now anyways. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, and I will see you on the next video. Until then, live long and prosper.